Oh, hey everyone. This is Dean for Paranormal Pickers. Just getting ready for our next Paranormal Picker adventure. Come on, join me. All right.
Get
Hey
started.
everyone. We're live in Facebook land, I believe. And just going to wait for it to pop up on my Facebook over here. That way I can read the comments. So I'll see them on the side, as you know. You
Yep.
work with Streamer. And we're just waiting on Nick. Let me check the messages here. Not yet. All right. So we're here all night long. We're going to be here till midnight. No, I'm kidding.
I think I'll be asleep by then. Carry on.
I'll keep you awake. I'll bring up another topic. All right, someone's already saying hi. Look at that. All right. So welcome everyone. This is Paranormal Pickers. We are focused on, as you can see on the bottom, Season 2, Episode 12, the Hanged Man Tarot card. That's the card of this episode. And with who I have with me today is Gary Hill, the man in the top hat. Is that a top hat? It looks
It
pretty
is.
cool. Yeah.
It is. I finally got a top. I always wear hats. I've been wanting a top hat for a while. I finally got one.
I got the stovetop hat when I went to Abraham Lincoln's cabin out there in Kentucky out there.
Oh, nice.
I finally got one of those. I don't wear it, but
Yeah, I pretty much never go anywhere without a hat. So
yeah. I mean, I wear some hats. You see me on the show. I got some straw hats and some crazy baseball caps or something around here. So I'll throw one on every once in a while. So Gary, how you doing, buddy?
doing well. How about yourself, my friend?
I could be better, but I'm feeling better. Got my inhaler.
Oh,
That's
what
helping.
kind is that? I have this variety.
Well, that's the one I have, but my roommate is in hospice, and I found one of those Brio ones, and I used to take that back in the day, so I figured I'll try that. So I believe it's got steroids in it, so that's probably why I'm a little uppity.
We'll be comparing inhalers here.
Old age sucks, man.
Oh, I've had asthma since I was like 8 years old. So
Oh, really? So you've been doing this?
I've used inhalers most of my life.
Yeah. Well, here's Melissa Johnson. We says hi there, and I believe the other one is Ron. Let me see. Let me bring up the Facebook Live so we can get started here. Yep. Ron Lovett, Melissa, and Paul Shepard's on. So, hey, everyone. Meet Gary Hill.
Hello,
Any,
everyone.
any relation to Hank Hill?
You mean from King of the Hill? Sure, yeah, why not? Why don't I tell you some propane? Funny thing is, my wife loves to name everything, and so she names cars and stuff. So I decided before she named my car, I was going to name it. So my car is Hank Hill, actually.
That's why I should change my name to Tank over here, Tank Hill.
There you go.
So we're waiting on that. Hopefully he pops in here. But we got a lot to talk about. Yes, my reminder, be ready to start live video at 7:30. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Facebook. All right. So first of all, you live nearby. You're like down the street from me. I'm in Harvard.
Oh, you're in Harvard. Okay, so you know where Poplar Grove is?
I know exactly where my buddy Tim lives there.
Yeah, I actually
And Amanda.
I live in, actually, technically, it's closer to like Capron and Candlewick Lake.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
That's yeah. They live in the gated thing,
Oh, Candlewick?
Candlewick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we live.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
They're
they're on.
their neighbors.
Yep. Yeah, you get the pass, go in there, and
Yep.
yeah, go out there all the time.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have to hook up. Do you go to the country club out there? The golf course.
Savannah Oaks Golf Course.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a golfer. Although we did stop in there once and have burgers and stuff. It was kind of
Yeah.
neat. Been
Yeah,
a
we'll
while
go in
ago.
there once in a while. Maybe have a beer or two and chit chat and catch
Well,
up.
the next time you come out this way, let me know. We'll meet up.
I will do. Will do. Yeah, they're over there on Liverpool or something. Or
Oh, okay. That's sort of on the other side of the subdivision from us. We're over by the other gate.
Gotcha. Oh, you're on way on the other side.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they do the Candlewick garage sales. I think twice a year too.
Yep. I haven't been to it in a few years, but yeah, we used to go quite a bit. I found some good stuff.
Nice. Yep. We got Laura Redmond on there too. Melissa. So yeah, we'll have to hook up out there.
Yeah. Cool.
So you've been inhaling since 8 years old. How long have you been publishing?
Okay. Well, I've been doing. I started doing Music Street Journal. The very first issue was February 1st, 1998. So almost 25 years.
Oh wow.
First issue was actually a Microsoft Word document sent out to like 28 subscribers by email, and it grew from there.
Hey, 48's not bad right out of the gate, you know.
28. Sorry, 28.
Oh, 28.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
still 28.
yeah, it was funny. The bass player Tony Levin. I've always pronounced it Levin. Now I think it's actually pronounced Levine, and I've actually said it Levin to him, but he's never corrected me. So because he's just a cool guy. But anyway, I had his email address, and he was covered in the first issue, and I sent it to him, and he sent it to his publicist, who then got in touch with me and started hooking me up with various bands and stuff, and it was really cool. That was how the whole thing sort of took off pretty quickly.
So you've been music influence from the. Do you play an instrument?
Not lately. I played bass for years and years and years. I played some keyboards, some guitar. I used to say if it has strings, I can fake it on it. And I could, I put out several like really indie sort of cassette only things that I later released on CD that were just really weird lo-fi music. But and I used to play in a lot of bands, but nobody that ever went anywhere. But yeah, I kind of miss playing, but I'm so rusty now. It's terrible.
So what did you call yourself on your independent?
I went under Gary Hill, but interestingly enough, I did have a stage name at one time with one band I was in, and we only ever played parties, but my stage name was Dark Star, STARI, like Ringo Starr, and I use that as a pen name sometimes. On a website, Wormwood Chronicles, I still use that as a pen name now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting about the Star, because today at work, well, I do customer orders at Northwestern, so I take their food orders, little part-time gig that I picked up.
Right.
And there's a little baby in there, and it shows her middle name, and her middle name was Star with 2 R's.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of ironic, and that was today.
Funny thing about Dark Star, actually, there's a fictionalized version of me, that character, as a vampire in some of my short stories too.
I could see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I see some of your work, and a lot of it reminds me of our Ghost Head Soup George Haulinko, and I'm probably mispronouncing my friend's name. I always do. I was pretty bad. I gave up at pronouncing names. Figured it was a lost cause with me, but
Well, so
yeah, right. Yeah, he worked for the newspaper out there in Sycamore, the Beacon, maybe, I don't know, something like that. And he had his own column called the G Spot.
nice.
And he just, if you look it up, you probably find it. But he had some, he just spoke about what he felt about the world. So, but yeah, he's currently writing about all kinds of stuff. So I actually shared your page with him. So
Oh, very cool.
Mhm. And Laura's laughing at me saying G-spot. So, uh, so the music stuff, I did go in. We were talking before we came on about music, and I was showing Gary some of my albums over here, and Scorpions, Animal Magnetism, and then Mama's Boys, and he actually saw Mama's Boys.
Yes, I
So,
did.
yeah.
That.
So
Rockford
Gary,
Metro Center.
yeah. So you're my new best friend.
Oh, I'm good with that.
Who ever heard of Mama's Boys? So that's pretty cool. But
Well, the funny thing was the way I found out about those guys. I was working at a record store at the time, and we got a promo copy of it in, and we played it in the store, and I was like, "Whoa, heavy metal with a violin? What's up with that?"
yeah,
I was like, "This is pretty cool." So
yeah.
I wanted to buy in a copy of the album. I thought it was really cool.
Yep. And it was, and they did Mama. We're all crazy now.
Yep.
Same with Quiet Riot, but
Which was
there's some
originally by Slade.
Yeah, exactly. Slade, man, they were pretty big at the time, weren't they?
Not so much here, but in Europe they were huge. I think they might still be. I don't know.
And a lot of their songs get covered by the '80s heavy metal bands. I felt there was that big one that came out. Not the I Am Woman. That one.
I don't remember. I do remember. Do you remember which Slade song Quiet Riot covered first? Was it Mama We're All Crazy? Because they covered a couple of them.
They did Mama Crazy Now.
I think they did another one too. But
Come On, Feel the Noise was the first one I want to say.
Was the first one? I remember they said, I remember reading an interview with them once, and they said that the producer thought they sounded like Slade, and so he wanted them to do that song. They didn't want to do it.
Oh.
So they thought, okay, we'll just do the worst version of it we possibly can do. And so they did it, and he recorded it. He's like, that's perfect. We'll put it on the album.
That's awesome. And I do a lot of storage lockers. So my cousin gets storage units, and I go out there and clean them out. So a lot of the times I find a record collection.
Oh, I bet you do.
Here's one of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I used to have that on vinyl. I don't anymore. I am a huge Black Sabbath fanatic.
Awesome.
The only Black Sabbath I have on vinyl anymore, because I was an idiot and got rid of all my vinyl when I switched to CD, and the only one I have now is the very first album. I eventually want to get them all back on vinyl, but...
well, let me know.
Hey, I'm interested. Bring it out when you come out to Candlewick Lake.
There you go.
I'll trade you for something.
There you go. What is your collection like now? You were sent promo stuff and received it. Do you still have all that stuff?
Oh yeah. Well, some of it got stolen, but yeah, I have a ton of it. I've got, I don't know, somewhere. I have a database of all my CDs. I think I've got about 5,800, 6,000 CDs, something like that. And then I don't.
Laura, he just trumped me.
I don't know how many records I've got. I mostly buy the records, but I've gotten a few sent to me. But I've got, I don't know, a few hundred records. But I just got, I'm going to review it. Hold on, I'll be right back. I just got this one that I'm going to review for the next issue. They sent me a promo of this cool Motorhead 3-record vinyl Iron Fist 40th anniversary set.
There you go.
Is freaking awesome. It's got a booklet in there and everything. It's very cool. So, yeah, I've got quite the collection actually.
What do you think about the records and vinyl coming back like they are? Because you see them more for sale at Walmart than CDs anymore.
Yeah, CDs. I heard CDs were dying. For me, they're not. I don't do streaming at all. I refuse to do it. I don't like streaming. I want something I can hold in my hand. I don't care if that's a CD. I don't care if that's a record, but I want to hold something in my hand and look at it. And I've heard that CD sales are starting to rebound again, which is cool. The CD value is going up. I think CD to me is really convenient. I've got sitting over here, I've got a massive 300 CD changer from Sony. And When I'm doing work that doesn't require me listening to music, I will have that on shuffle most of the time because it's just convenient. You don't have to turn it over. But the weekends, I listen to vinyl exclusively in the mornings because it's more of an experience, I think. You sort of sit down and really take it in, and it's relaxing. And, sure, you got to get up and flip it over, but it's a different experience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I don't think the CD ever really replaced that. We thought it did, but it didn't really.
Well, I like the cassettes. Back in the
We're
day.
coming back too. It's funny. It was probably
wait. They're coming back. Cassettes are
before COVID hit. I always went to. I haven't been to a record store day since COVID, but before COVID hit, I would always go to record store day, and I was in line at record store day one day, and in line behind this guy who's maybe 20 years old, and he's telling me that all the people in his group of people, all the music they listen to, they buy on cassette, and they listen to cassettes. It's like, and so apparently cassettes are a thing now again.
Mixtapes, like Victoria says, that's Victoria Monday. She says mixtapes; those were the best. You can make anything on it,
Well, I still have a dubbing deck sitting over here. I don't use it very often. I still have some cassettes too.
We could go on and on about music.
Yeah.
But the Hangman is about suspense and life interruption. So we're going to interrupt the music here a little bit.
Okay.
Wisdom and occult manners is another meaning behind the Hangman card. And it seems like you do a lot of occult writing here in Tales of Wonder and Dread. And you're the curator of Spooky Ventures.
Yes, sir. I've always loved everything spooky. I mean, when I was a little kid, I don't know how old you are, but I was in the age group that when I was a kid, I rushed home from grade school to watch Dark Shadows and watch Barnabas Collins, and then I watched Kolchak the Night Stalker when it was on TV for the one season it was on, and I loved all the monster movies on TV, and I grew up with that, and so I've always been into the spooky stuff. I sort of say that those of us, I don't just sort of say, I actually do. I've labeled those of us who like the spooky stuff year round as the spooky tribe. And, I'm definitely part of the spooky tribe. And I always had a passion for writing spooky stuff. And I did, a few years back, I did a collection of my stories and some other people's stories. I just sent out a message around Facebook and some people replied. And it was horror and science fiction. And it went together so well. It was called Dark Dreams and Weird Worlds. And I thought, I really like doing these kind of collections. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll just put together a publishing imprint and start doing horror and science fiction. And that's what I wound up doing. And that was 2018. I think we're published close, like maybe around 30 books so far now. Some of them are strictly my books. Some of them are collections, including mine. There are a few books that have nothing original. They're all old public domain stories.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a new one of those coming out on November 1st called Put the Spooky Back into Christmas with Christmas horror stuff.
You got a few Christmas ones out there, I noticed.
Yeah, that was the funny thing is everybody in this country thinks Christmas is all about lights and cheer and stuff. But, in England and even traditionally here in the old days, selling spooky stories at Christmas was a big deal. And it's sort of lost its way. And I think is starting to see a resurgence, and I'm very happy about that. And I'm sort of pushing that myself. I did Horrifying Holidays last year, which had original stuff, and it also had a Christmas Carol in it and some other things. But yeah, so I've done those, and then I've also with Tales of Wonder and Dread, we also published a book by Elizabeth Lynn Blackson called The Girls Gotta Eat, which is sort of it's dark fantasy, and it's really, really cool, dark urban fantasy. It's actually, I know I'm biased because I'm the editor, but I think it's the best book I've read all year, and it's the first of a trilogy, and we're getting ready. I did the first proofing round and sent it back to her to look at again. Then she's going to send it to me, and I'll proof it again for the second book, but we're going to publish that early next year. But So the whole Tales of Wonder and Dread's fun. We've focused for some reason. It's gone more horror lately. I also did a collection of books on Rockford area cemeteries too, because I just love cemeteries. I love walking around in cemeteries. To me, there's sort of history and art all rolled up into one.
I'm all about cemeteries, yeah.
Yeah, and I find it just a very pleasant experience to be in a cemetery. I don't know why, but
it's peaceful.
It is.
There's no one there to harass you.
Right. So then I was doing that, and I thought, one thing I haven't really done a lot of is video. And so I thought, what if I start doing some videos over on YouTube and do a whole little thing and do merchandising with it, do some spooky merchandising and do spooky ventures. And so I launched that, I think, in 2019. It hasn't really taken off like I wanted it to, but we are gradually gaining a following. We're getting more subscribers every year. People are watching the videos. I haven't really figured out what makes some videos more popular than others, but we do reviews. I do some interviews on there. I do audiobooks, radio shows, all kinds of things on there. And it's sort of fun. And I do spooky news, at least this time of year. I was doing that all year round, and it just got to be too much doing spooky news every week. Plus, there weren't that many spooky news items. This time of year, there are a lot of them. So I'm doing one a week right now. But it's just kind of cool to do video for a change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's how this what we're doing today allows us to tell our stories, our ghost stories, opposed to putting them on Facebook. And we don't share all the investigations that we go on, and we don't tell all the stories that we lived them on our website or that either. Right. And I think this is a perfect format to get that story across. And if you go back to some of our earlier stuff, you'll hear we talk about something specific, like a young girl murder and a serial killer here, and so each one kind of has a topic in a way. So yeah, but you go all over the spectrum. You go from vampires to everything, pretty much.
Oh yeah. The very first book I ever did was in 2006. Well, it was published in 2006. It took me about 2.5-3 years to write it, but I had
Strange Sound of
Strange Sound of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And I had decided that I wanted to do a book, and I knew it was going to be nonfiction. And I thought, well, what do I know a lot about? And first thing I thought of was the band Yes, because I'm a Yes fanatic. Okay. And then I was like, you know what? There are a lot of Yes books out there. I don't really think I have anything new to bring to that. And then I got thinking about how a lot of music was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. And I'm a music fan, and I'm a Lovecraft fan. So I started doing the research and put that book together. I got to interview a lot of the musicians. I got a hold of a lot of the music and listen to it. And it became, it's the best-selling book I've done so far, and people really like it. I still get people contacting me, hey, I love that book. And I'm actually looking at doing a 20th anniversary version, expanded and revised for 2026. So I've been doing.
Oh, is this the one where it's a band?
Oh no, that's Wizard Song, which
okay.
Wizard Song.
That's right.
Wizard Song, strictly fiction. Strange Sound of Cthulhu is purely nonfiction, and just it analyzes the music, compares the lyrics to the Lovecraft's text, and when possible, talks to the musicians about their thoughts on it and that kind of thing. And it's if you know who S.T. Joshi is, he's one of the big H.P. Lovecraft scholars, and he wrote the foreword to the book for me. And he said, and I wound up, he told this to a friend of mine, and so I got a hold of ST, and I was like, do I have permission to say this? He's like, sure. And he said it's one of the most interesting books he's ever read, which I was like, hey, that's awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah. So that was the first one I did. But Wizard Song is an interesting one. Wizard Song is more science fiction. It's like space opera kind of thing. And it's got an interesting history because I first wrote it when I was about 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was into comic books. I was into Star Trek. and I was into progressive rock, and it combined all of those things for one thing. And I originally did it as a whole comic book, and I lost most of it. I still had some of it. And then in the 90s, I thought, you know what? It's all right here still. And so I rewrote it as a novel, but I really wasn't happy with it. It was, I had tried to do some weird things with it. Clever, but weird. Like there was a whole date system that was based on the number of suns in the sky, because it was, the number of moons in the sky. It was like a 3-moon system. And it was like very complicated. I worked it all out, but it was really clunky. And I just thought, this isn't really good. So I put it away, but it stayed here. Mm-hmm. And so finally, I got the idea, I'm going to rewrite it. And I wrote it, and I'm pretty darn happy with it. And I'm actually working on the sequel to it right now. The basic premise of that is that it starts with a spaceship that's got a crew on it, and they're heading towards a destination, and you can tell that they're not, the captain's not so sure about their mission. He's not so sure about the command structure. They've got this leader he doesn't really trust, and you can tell pretty early on they've got kind of an authoritarian system where they're not really trusted, and you've got to be careful what you say. But they're heading to a planet to abduct some people who are hiding out on that planet and look like the people there, but they're not the same. And you find out at the end of the first chapter that he's going to Earth. And they show up on Earth, but first you see this rock band, and they're doing this interview. And it turns out that the people they're kidnapping, the aliens they're kidnapping, are the rock band. And they get them on the ship, and the rock band have no idea they're aliens, so they think they're human. And it sort of takes off from there. They get drawn into this interstellar war, and good versus evil and all that stuff. And it's
almost sounds like it could be nonfiction.
Yeah, to me the biggest theme of it is, which I don't know who's picked up on it, but the theme I intended was that art, and particularly in this case music, can defeat evil. And a teamwork, working together, makes you stronger than an individual and people who don't trust each other.
Exactly.
And
hallelujah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, the first book you said that one came out in 2006.
Yes.
And that one you wrote when you were 12 years old. That's pretty cool.
Wizard Song didn't come out then.
The other one, the first one.
Strange Sound, that one. Yeah, that one took about 2.5 years to write, I think.
But you had the idea since you were 12. That's pretty.
No, not Strange Sound. Strange Sound, I just came up with the idea when I was trying to decide what to do for a first book.
Gotcha.
Wizard Song's the one that was, and that came out in 2019. But that came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. That's right, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the pandemic, and I had it intended to be out right about the time the lockdowns were happening. So I wound up pushing the release date back and pushing it ahead a little bit, and released it about 4 or 5 weeks early to get it out ahead of that. Because I was like, I don't know what the world's going to look like. I want this out there. So yeah.
That's true. Yeah. And look at what it looks like now.
Yeah, it's weird.
So let's get caught up on some of the comments on here. Victoria says, The Masquerade, that was a good one. When you were talking about the earlier shows that you're watching. Now, you were watching you were going home to watch all the old, I was more into the late night stuff like Johnny Carson, and then, of course, Channel 11 with Mighty Python, Benny.
Oh, yeah.
Benny Hill. So that's where I got my stuff
too. Masquerade, as in Vampire the Masquerade? Is that what she's talking about?
I'm assuming. Because
that's actually, a funny thing is I do, that much about it, is I've got a whole bunch of vampire stories, short stories, and I'm actually working to collect them all into one book that's going to sort of connect them all, because they're all in one universe. And Vampire the Masquerade, I used to play that game, and that's a huge influence on my vampire universe in a lot of ways.
So you're connecting all the bloodlines together in your book, huh?
Sort of. I mean, I didn't follow all the bloodlines and things like that, but some of the things from Vampire the Masquerade are kind of the way the vampires work in my world. And, every sort of author who is worth the grain of salt who does vampires has sort of things that are individual to their vampire universe. And I've got some in mind where some of the things like thinking that sunlight kills vampires or that they don't have reflections were all myths that the vampires actually, whether they started them or they just encouraged them, they liked it because it drew attention from them. And then, because they do reflect in mirrors, and sunlight doesn't kill them, it just weakens them. And, so it's like there are things that, just different things about it. And Vampire the Masquerade was a big influence on my vampire world.
She says yes, that's the one. It was a vampire mafia soap opera.
Oh, I remember the TV show. I watched that for a while. It got a little too soap opera-y for me, but yeah.
Now let me guess, did the vampires own stock in garlic, so that's why they the garlic market went crazy. She also said Victorian ghost stories need to come back.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree, absolutely. I'm publishing. There are a few of them in Put the Spooky Back into Christmas. I think a few of them are Victorian. Yeah, in fact, I know a few of them are. I've done a few. I did another collection, Spirited Ghost Stories, which had some Victorian ones in there too.
And I know Sylvia Schultz. You're familiar with Sylvia, right? She released a Christmas book.
She what?
Something. She released a Christmas.
Oh, did she?
That book. Yeah.
Yeah,
about a year ago or two.
It's apparently becoming a big deal now, which is good. I'm very happy to see that. I would like to see the spooky side be kind of more prominent. I had, when I did Put the Spooky Back into Christmas on Spooky Ventures last year, I had some, for lack of better terms, fundamentalists come after me a little bit on it. And I was willing to challenge the person, but they weren't willing to stay in the fight. So it went away.
Doesn't that piss you off?
Yeah, it's a little bit. I was like, okay, let's have some fun here. You want to argue about this? Let's argue about it. I've got some facts.
And they're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
That sucks. Victoria also says, will he publish my other books? I'll be giving A.N. Lori, am I saying that right? A run for her money, LOL.
So, what kind of books do you have? I'm interested. Get in touch. I'm always interested in looking at other stuff to publish. The only thing is, being a little imprint, I don't do cash deals, but I do, depending on how much work for proofing and stuff it takes, I do a percentage of royalties deals, and they can be pretty generous depending if I don't have a lot of work to do on it.
And that's at GaryHillAuthor.com/books.
Yeah, well, I mean, she can email me at Gary@GaryHillAuthor.com. That will work. Yeah.
There you go. And she also says she apparently likes this masquerade because she continues on. The main character was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident, and the series ended.
I didn't watch it that long.
Well, you spoiled it for him, Victoria. Come on, he was.
I remember when when I was playing the role playing game. Though I had a character who was like a biker rock and roller dude. And I remember we had to hide in a barn one time, and I picked up my Harley and picked it up and carried it up into the loft and hid it.
Oh, the guy that's not how the show ended. That's how he really died.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. That is tragic.
Yeah. Oops. And she says, I have a contact with Beyond the Fray. Can I do both? Victoria, why don't you just join in? So let's talk about spooky places. I know you mentioned that you were doing a video. Before we came on, we were talking about voice captions and stuff.
Yeah.
And you said that you captured something on video that sounded like because you're a skeptic.
Yes, I am, very much.
But you heard a lady breathing on one of the videos that you can't account for.
Correct.
Did you So was this at your house?
No. So I did those books on cemeteries in Rockford. And so what those books, largely those books are photographs. I shot a lot of photographs. There's a little bit of information about each cemetery, and then there's photographs. And I thought after a while, I'm way too late, I thought, you know what, I've got a video camera too. While I'm out there shooting pictures, I can just shoot some video too. So I was out there shooting pictures at this Scandinavian cemetery, and I'm also shooting a little bit. So I take my camera and I take some pictures, and then I just sort of do some scanning video and here and there. And I get home, I didn't hear anything, didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Well, the day I went to the cemetery, I was going to edit the video for to put out on YouTube, and they were mowing out there that day.
No,
so I thought, well,
they always mow at cemeteries.
Yeah, I thought, well,
never fails.
Anything that's got mowing in it, I'm just going to pull the audio off of that video before I put it up there. Just put it up silent if the mowing's too loud. And there was a large group of people who were super nice. I talked to them and I took pictures of their loved ones because they wanted me to, and I put it in, made sure they got in the book. And but they were maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 feet away from me. And they were kind of loud, but they weren't that loud. And so I wanted to make sure that you couldn't really hear what they were saying in the video, and you couldn't. And there was a video, and I just sort of scanned over this gravestone. It was like one of the flat gravestones. And I just sort of scanned over it. And I'm sitting here just going over the video. My wife's sitting next to me, and we just hear this woman go, and I just stopped, and I went, what was that? And she heard it too. And I'm like, played it back, it's there. Played it back multiple times. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And it sort of creeped me out. And it's like right as I go over this one woman's headstone.
Do you remember the lady's name?
No, but it is in the book. I can't remember, but it's also in the video, which is out on YouTube. But yeah, I don't know, and I've not heard any stories about any hauntings in that cemetery or anything. But there was another one that was less obvious at St. James Cemetery, where there was at one point there was a big tree, and there were a couple of graves around the tree, and somebody had hung a wind chime around on one of the branches of the tree, right? And so I'm sort of videoing around the tree. And there is like no wind. That wind chime has not gone off. I go past the wind chime and I hear ting. And so I turn around and look at it. And then I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. And nothing else. I turn away, ting, ting. And then it never chimed again.
In the meantime, there's a bunch of flies over there going like this. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that was the only other one that I got. But it's funny because one of the places I went and took pictures of, which I wish I had brought my video camera but didn't think of, was Bachelor's Grove Cemetery.
Okay.
And now I want to go back there with a video camera and see if I get anything.
Well, let's go. I'll hook it up with Dale. We'll go out there with Dale Kasmerick.
Absolutely. My wife wants to go out there because she didn't go with me when I went out there. She wants to go check it out. My experience at Bachelor's Grove, everybody talks about it being spooky. I felt like it was almost like home. It felt very welcoming to me. Mm-hmm. But the weird part was there were some weird things that happened afterwards. After I came home, some strange things started happening around in the house for a while. For maybe a month and a half, 2 months, odd things happened in the house. And for a month and a half, every single night, I dreamed about that cemetery.
Interesting.
Nothing scary, but I'd be there and there would be people hanging around, kids playing, and I was like, oh, it was every night for a month and a half.
Well, it haunted you, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty good story there. I mean, if that's, because I know coming home from places, I get stuff that happens, but not for a month and a half. So that was,
it was. I sort of ignored it for a while, and my wife started noticing stuff. I'm like,
oh, so she did too. Okay.
Yeah, she did too. And there were a couple of times there was like, she would get the feeling for a little while there that when she went up the stairs, somebody was following her. And so I'd go up first, and then I'd grab her phone and go take pictures on the stairs behind her. And a few times I could see in the finder what looked like confetti going across. But I do know that digital cameras are notorious for capturing dust as little trailers and stuff. And people think they're orbs, but they're really not. They're just dust in the air. And she had just walked up the stairs, which would have gotten some dust moving around. So I think there's a really logical explanation for it, but it was a little freaky.
Yeah. Or if you sneeze, I mean, you create a lot of orbs that way too.
Oh, exactly.
So back to the Rockford cemeteries, I know, is it like 2 cemeteries per book that you do, I noticed?
Yes.
Okay.
And I haven't finished the last one yet. I have to get out to the Jewish cemetery. I went there once. I didn't realize they had a padlock on it. They gave me the key to the code to the padlock, but I haven't gotten back there yet to take pictures. So that's going to be in the last book. My plan was to do that book too, and then start moving outward from there. Because I love doing cemeteries and I love taking the pictures of them. And
right there with you. Right there with you. So why do they have a padlock on the cemetery?
Well, it's a Jewish cemetery. I think there's a really good reason, probably.
Ah, gotcha.
They want to, avoid vandalism, I bet.
Spooky State Line.
Yes, I actually have that one here. I have the latest books I published right here. Spooky State Line. I did the 2 Spooky Rockfords, and I decided to do Spooky State Line so that I could get a little further out from Rockford this time, and I got some cool stuff in there. Not everything in there is my stories, and there are 2 fiction stories in there, one of mine and one from Jay Sterner, and we've got some interesting stuff in that one from the Wagon Wheel Resort, which is gone, but Mike Korn did a cool article about American Werewolf in Wisconsin when they have it's technically, they think it's a werewolf maybe, but it's something else too. It's in Walworth County, that beast that they spotted in Walworth
Beast
County.
of Bray Road?
Yes, the Bray Road beast. Yeah, he did an article about that, and Stephen Osborne did one about some personal...
Haunted Farmhouse, is that the one?
Yeah, and he actually went to there, and the pictures for that article are his, and there's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, I met Steve in 2009, I want to say. At the road. Guy. Oh yeah, at the Roadhouse.
Oh yeah. And the Roadhouse is in there too.
I saw that. So what did you?
Supposedly, Mike, who's the owner of the Roadhouse,
we had him on.
You had him on there?
We had him on the show 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. He gave me information that he said was new information that he's gotten, which I don't think has been in any other stories. So. Some interesting stuff. And it was sort of, pretty explosive stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is naming people and it's saying things that happen. I was like, I am not publishing this under my name unless I can quote you as saying it. And so he said, yeah, he had gotten the information and he let me quote him. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I don't want to get somebody coming after me for it.
It's a tricky one because Oregon, the families, it's all still.
Oh yeah, interestingly enough, my family at one time owned a huge part of Oregon, Illinois, and we were
really.
My family was a pretty big family in Oregon, Illinois.
No way.
My mother's family, the Corcoran family, and they owned the old hotel, and they owned lots of stuff down there. Yeah, and so that's where we were from. I grew up in Rockford, but that was where she grew up, and so I've got big ties to Oregon. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was 2 books about the unsolved murder, and I know there was an article that I found that I gave him. Is that something that he mentioned, or I'll have to read your book?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly what there was something about. Some earlier murders from the original lady who owned the place murdered her husband, and then her daughter wound up running it, and her husband wound up dead under suspicion.
Yeah, he brought that up on the show last time.
Yeah, so that was something new that he had shared for the book, which I didn't know if he'd shared it anywhere before, but yeah.
Here, Laura Redmond made a comment here. This is so cool, Gary. You are local to many of us, and we run in the same circles. It's amazing. Amazing. We haven't met you before. You are, and very interesting guest.
Well, thank you very much.
And Laura is a Svengoolie fan. She watches
Oh
Svengoolie.
yeah, I'm a Svengoolie fanatic. So,
So there you go, Laura.
that's our Saturday night ritual. We sit down in front of the TV. We got upset when they changed the whole advertising for the Svengoolie.com thing because we had it all memorized and we would go along with it. No, the personal checks. And now they do different stuff with it, so we don't have it anymore. But yeah, actually, Sven, when I did Spooky Berwyn, the first one.
Yeah, I saw this.
when I did the first one, he was doing an event at Volo Auto Museum, and so we went out there and got in line. We got there really early, showed up. We were like the second people in line, and I presented him with a signed copy of the book. And probably a month and a half later, he showed it on the show. And
Nice.
so when I did Spooky Berwyn 2 just now, I mailed him a copy of that one. So we'll see if that winds up on the show. It doesn't matter because the whole title, Spooky Berwyn, is a tribute to Svengoolie. So he has to have a copy whether it winds up on the show or not. I'm just such a huge fan. And he seems like such a nice guy from meeting him.
One of our friends in the paranormal circle here, Jen, she painted a picture of him, and I guess it's in the background of the show somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, one of the paintings.
If you notice, I've got all these cereal boxes back here, the monster cereal boxes. And if you watch Svengoolie close enough, when he does, especially the male segment, but other parts too, if you watch and just sort of look around the room, you see all these little bits of trinkets and things around him. And usually they change from episode to episode, and they usually are something to do with the shows that he's showing. Well, when I started doing the Spooky Ventures videos, I'd like to try to put things like this up there in the background and change them from time to time. And I just happened to be doing some videos for Spooky Ventures today, and I put them up there, so I left them up for this. I thought, well, let's just do that. But yeah, that's a total thing from Svengoolie. But I was going to say, for local people, I should mention this, on the 28th, Maze Books, which is right down next to Irish Rose. I'm going to be there doing a reading, and I'm going to have some books for sale that I can sign. Dan Klefstad, who has the brilliant Fiona's Guardians vampire book out, he'll be there. And then Dave Pedersen and M.K. Davis, I believe the other person's name is. We're all going to be doing readings and should have books there for people to buy. And
what date again?
Party. What's that?
What date again?
The 28th of October, and that'll be at 7 o'clock at Maze Books. Like I said, it's right by Irish Rose downtown there.
I know Irish Rose.
Yeah, it's in the same parking lot. Yeah, Irish Rose is one side of the parking lot. The other side, there's a little building, and that's where Maze is.
Oh, cool.
It took us when we went down there the first time, we were kind of lost. We drove through that parking lot a couple of times and didn't see it. And then, oh, there it is.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
I kind of do the same thing back here. I got a collection of Ouija boards and then a Scooby-Doo toy trailer and some other goofy stuff. So I sometimes change it up. I don't know. But that's my background. But I've been noticing your collection of beer bottles up there.
Oh yeah, I've got it's not just beer bottles. I've got beer bottles. I've got wine bottles. I've got booze bottles. I've got pop bottles. Anything cans. Anything that sort of grabs my attention. I think it's sort of cool. Either if I like the liquid that's in it a lot, or if I decide that the bottle or can is sort of cool and worth collecting, I keep it. Yeah.
Nice. So going back to the spooky state line, you mentioned the Wagon Wheel Resort.
Yes.
And that was it was burnt down. But a story that I came across, like I said, I do storage locker stuff.
Yes.
So I was throwing some stuff away, and this older couple threw a box of old stuff away, and it had old postcards in it. So I just threw them in the front of my passenger seat because I do a flea market too, so I resell the stuff.
Right.
So Nick and I were planning on going out to Rockton, up and down 251, started in Rockton, went to the witch baby grave and stuff,
I've
and
been there too.
and then so then I had everything planned out, and I went through the car museum up there. That
Oh
one
yeah,
up
it's
there.
cool museum.
It's a nice museum. It's pretty
Yeah.
wild. And then I was coming home, and then I was researching the witch baby, and then I came across the wagon wheel, and I'm like, well, crap! I just drove right by there where the would have been, and then the next day I went out and grabbed that stack of stuff. There was actually an old wagon wheel postcard
Oh, that's cool.
that I grabbed from there the day before. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty wild.
I went to a gaming convention there once. Yeah, when it was still there.
Yeah, and that burned down not too long ago, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, I think it was late '90s, maybe early
A
2000s.
little bit ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's been a while, but yeah, um, it was supposedly haunted. I don't know. Again, skeptic. I never saw anything, but
Come on, everything's haunted.
yeah, sure.
So we talked about Stephen Osborne. Yeah, he like you said, is a good guy. He wrote the Northern Illinois Ghost Book, which I probably
Yes.
have somewhere around here.
He's contributed to several of my collections, actually.
Yeah, Ghost Head Soup. We've been in a few of his stories. One in DeKalb, the Roadhouse, and then Monroe up in Wisconsin. He came up there for a tour. That was nice. And he's actually he wrote for Doctor Who, which is
Yes,
kind
he
of
did. Which
yeah.
the first time I met him, we were doing a book signing event together, and when I found out he had written for Doctor Who, I'm a fanatic for Doctor Who too, and I was like, seriously, you got to write for Doctor Who? They
Yeah.
don't like Americans writing for Doctor Who.
All right. So Victoria says, "Great conversation, most interesting guest, but I need the boogie." So she's a Texas girl, so she needs her get her Texas on, I guess. Thanks, Victoria, for coming on board for a little bit.
See you, Victoria.
Let's see. So you do open calls. Please email submissions to Tales of Wonder and Dread. Let's talk about Tales of Wonder and Dread. We talked about Spooky. We talked about Music Street Journal. We talked about Dark Dreams. Now you were Dark Star and Dark Dreams. What's with the dark?
Sounds like spooky, you know?
Dark Spooky.
Yeah, there you go. And people have been known to call me Spooky Gary these days. So
Spooky Gary. Well, I don't know. Spooky Gary. I guess it could be worse.
I'll own it. I actually wound up making a cocktail I call the Spooky Gary because of that.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah.
So what's in the Spooky Gary? We do recipes here too. So.
I don't have the recipe right here, but as far as memory, there's peach schnapps, there's scotch, there's brown sugar, iced tea. I think that might. Oh, and a beer.
I was gonna say this is starting to sound like something we call strip and go naked,
There you go.
which is a spooky thing.
Yeah. It'd be spooky if it's me.
But we're older now, so we don't give a. So Dark Star Files, you had three. You said a series of 3 books on that, right?
Yeah, and there's actually going to be a 4th now. What those were? I write for Wormwood Chronicles, and which is my friend Mike Korn's publication, and he has everybody write under a pseudonym, which is why I write under Dark Star there.
I got you.
And at one point, he decided to quit doing Wormwood Chronicles, and so I thought, well, I'm going to take all my articles I've written for there because they're going to disappear, and I'm going to put them into some books and put them out there so they're available. And then after about a year or so, he decided to start it back up. So I've written more now. So I'm collecting those to put into Dark Star Chronicles 4, or Dark Star Files 4. So, but it's just interesting little stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. And so you did this Spooky Berwyn, and then you're doing Spooky Rockford now. And before the show, or we were talking about the albums, and you said, or we were talking about American Pickers, and you said the only episode that you saw was the one with Cheap Trick Guy on it.
Yes,
His name escapes me. I think
Rick Nielsen.
Thank you, Rick. Oh my god, I can't think of his name. But I know where he lived. Did he ever sell his house? I know his house was up for sale.
I believe the one on Jacoby Place, I believe he did sell, yes.
That was the one up on the...
Yeah, I think he sold that house. It's funny, I used to run into Rick all the time years ago. We used to go to the same sushi place all the time, and we used to go shopping at Woodman's in the middle of the night all the time, and we'd run into each other and sit and chat for a while all the time. I haven't seen him in probably 20 years now, but so I haven't caught up with him. But yeah.
So, have you reviewed any of his stuff?
Oh yeah, I reviewed some Cheap Trick stuff. Absolutely, I've reviewed a few, and I did reviewed one of the concerts, and yeah.
Now, him being a friend of yours, now
I wouldn't say he's a friend; he's an acquaintance, but and that doesn't matter.
It doesn't change your opinion on that.
You can do unbiased reviews. Although one of the things I do with Music Street Journal is right from the beginning, and I do this with Spooky Ventures too, is my thought is I don't want to waste my time and the reader's time on negative reviews. So if I can't write a positive review of something, I'm just going to set it aside and not review it at all. Because there's too much good stuff out there that I have to wait to get to. So why waste my time with something that I'm just going to give a review? You know, and besides that, nobody goes out of their way to put out a bad product. They just don't do it. Now for Wormwood, I sometimes do negative reviews. I just recently did a couple movie reviews that were negative reviews for there. Because I couldn't do a positive, and they'll run the negative. They're kind of snarky and whatever, but yeah. But at Music Street Journal, I won't do that.
I like that. I like that. Even that concept. I know Victoria, she does tarot card readings, and in tarot card world, there's a positive reading, or there's an up reading, and if the card comes in reverse, it's a negative reading. And she says she doesn't do the negative side of the tarot cards, which I thought was interesting because
that is
you got to get both sides of that. But I think you could present it in a way to where it's like politely positive, negative, positive. Isn't that the formula?
Yeah, it's a sandwich. Bad news sandwich. I had marketing class.
Yeah, I was in customer service way too long.
I used to do phone tech support, kind of similar.
There you go.
And I worked retail for many years.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of music, we're back on that. The Rockford scene, you know, that's something that you had said or quoted to say that has been one worth documentation. Seems a shame to let the history of a vibrant music scene be, did I spell that on? Relegated to scraps of things that just happen to be kept in a drawer somewhere. I love that.
Yeah, we were working on those Music Street Journal local ones for Rockford, and once the pandemic hit, we sort of stopped doing them. And those are mostly pictures by my friend Eric Melly, and then I do little write-ups on the bands, and we do 4 bands per book. There are a few of them that have my pictures and some other people's, but most of them. And we were trying to do one band that isn't around anymore, and then 3 bands that are current bands. But we haven't done one since the pandemic. I was talking with Eric about maybe starting to do them again, but I'm not sure if we're going to start doing that or not. I got to get back with him on that. It's been too long since we put one out.
But I love the way you put it, that, you know, keep the scraps things. They're kept in the drawer and nobody knows about it. And
oh yeah, I mean, there used to be Ram magazine in Rockford, which had all those stuff about the bands, and there were a few other Rockford magazines, which were basically newspapers. And it's like, I still have some of those around. They're sitting in drawers, and I'm sure everybody else has some of those. But a lot of them are gone, or they're little scraps of paper. And it's like the scene really should have been preserved because there were a lot of really cool bands around.
Yeah, back in like Chicago, because I grew up not in Chicago, but the suburbs. But you know, the music scene was We had Thirsty Whale,
Oh,
all that
I
stuff.
saw Hawkwind at the Thirsty Whale once.
Oh wow. There you go. I'm more of the '80s metal stuff. Um, and so all my friends were in bands and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So um, yeah, that's interesting. And I don't know if some of the Rockford bands made it out to
Oh, I'm
Chicago.
sure a lot of them played out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to research some of those. So that's cool. And how would you describe the Rockford sound? Is it any different than Chicago, as we were talking?
Well, it all depends on the period of time you're talking. I mean, probably in the 80s and 90s, you're probably looking at Ripped, if you've heard those guys. That was a big part of the sound. Like really sort of extreme metal kind of stuff. Like they're still around sometimes. I don't know. I saw them a few times. I actually was in a band with their drummer at one time, but yeah, they were a pretty big part of the Rockford scene for a while. There was a lot of metal and like sort of raunchy metal kind of stuff, which was cool. Um, but there was also like new wave was going around for a while. I haven't kept up on the local scene lately too much. Um, but I think all the music styles are pretty much still represented, or a lot of them.
Yeah, I see some of the older styles coming back. They got through that new metal phase a little bit and the
Yeah,
industrial stuff, and I could see a little more of the going back to the roots of how it, back in the, back when it first started and felt good and felt right. I love the garage band. I love
yeah,
that sound. I was telling you earlier with the new wave of British heavy metal. It's a rawer sound.
yeah,
One of my bands that I follow is called Y&T, or originally Yesterday and
yeah,
Today.
yeah. I remember those guys.
Dave Menichetti is still around. The rest of the band is deceased,
Yeah,
unfortunately. But they were a California, San Francisco band, and they went to England, where the studio where Jimi Hendrix and the new wave of British heavy metal were doing it. So they actually played out there and got their studio. They're actually more popular over there.
well, look at the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles were British, and then they went to Germany to get famous,
True.
and
Yeah.
and then suddenly went everywhere. And then there's also a British prog band from the '70s called Nectar, who really didn't take off anywhere until they went to Germany, took
Yeah.
off in Germany, and then all of a sudden they were everywhere.
Yeah,
You know?
like a lot of the '80s bands, they're over in Japan,
Oh yeah,
doing
yeah.
all that stuff.
I guess the music scene in Japan is kind of a trip to this day. Like the when CDs weren't doing well here, they were still
Mhm.
selling like crazy over there, and still are to this day. And it's the
Yeah,
music scene is crazy over there still.
yeah, and there's a lot of these bands. I love going on YouTube and just searching different country metal bands during that time, and you see similar acts, and some of them are really freaking good.
Oh yeah,
You're like, wow, these bands don't even get a name
oh yeah.
in our eyes because they're not we're not catered to it. They're not
Well,
marketing us.
that's like I reviewed in the latest issue of Music Street Journal. I reviewed a documentary about this artist named Van Duren, who you've probably never heard of, right?
Mhm.
I'd never heard of this guy either. And he had a solo album out. I think it was in the mid '70s, maybe. And he sounded sort of like Cheap Trick meets the Beatles meets Todd Rundgren, and he was amazingly good. And the record label didn't really promote it. It didn't go anywhere. He recorded a second album that never got released. The label had the master tapes. So he was just sort of forgotten until these guys in Australia came across his music and were like, who is this guy? And decided to do a documentary. They came over to the United States and tracked down they'd never done a documentary before either, I should add. And
Oh
they just
wow.
started tracking down his history. By the end of it, they'd found him, they'd gotten his master tapes back for him. And it's like they've reintroduced this guy to the world. But the thing is that's interesting about that, he was incredibly talented. if it was all fair and if it was all based on talent, he should have been huge, but yet nobody heard of him.
Is he still alive? He's still alive, right?
Oh yeah, he's still alive.
Okay.
In fact, I shared a link to my review of the video, and he commented on it, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
But it's like if it were based on talent, a lot of people who are huge wouldn't be, and a lot of people who aren't huge would. It's not based on talent. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of getting into it with the right people, timing. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it.
Oh yeah, that's marketing.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
So let's stay on the music scene, but also turn it into a spooky scene. So
Okay.
out of all the musicians that have gone and passed, and if you were doing a ghost session or ghost hunt, where would you go, and who would you want to talk to the most? I guess.
Ooh.
So many, I know.
I know so many. I'd probably go out to, I think it's L.A. where he lived and died, and go try to find the ghost of Frank Zappa. Because he just seemed like such an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the people who I wish I had gotten to interview, but I never did because he was gone before I started doing it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just saw somewhere that they're doing a holograph tour of him.
I'm not surprised they do those.
So you could actually see him on stage. So.
Yeah. I don't know about those. They might be kind of cool. They did one. What Dio did one. There was one for Dio.
Yep.
He's another one I did get the chance to meet, and he was super cool.
I think if we were to clone somebody, and going back to the spooky, I mean, cloning people, I'd say Randy Rhoads. Let's bring Randy Rhoads back and see what his life should have been had he not.
Yeah, Randy was. I just reviewed a video of his documentary about him too, but yeah. I actually got to see him play live once.
Yeah,
which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was a talent taken away way too soon. Well, he was already on the top of his game. Imagine if he was still alive, what this world would be in the music industry. It would have been crazy.
Well, imagine even if Jimi Hendrix had lived. What would he be doing now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So spooky places. How you talk about the state line? Do you have any goals on going further than state line, more in Wisconsin? Is this a pattern that's going to take place with your books?
Hopefully we'll see. I have been kind of not traveling around a lot lately, but I would see doing that. The thing with a lot of the spooky state line, the spooky Rockford, is a lot of times I just research the stuff and I don't actually go to the places. But if I can go there and get pictures, that's better. But in some cases the things are even gone by the time you get around to researching them. So I could absolutely do those for other areas. We did get into Wisconsin a little bit with spooky state line. For I think Lake Geneva, Janesville, Monroe. I think. Where did you go in Monroe? When you went up there?
Victorian Garden Bed and Breakfast.
Oh, okay. There's
a whole now.
There's an old steakhouse that was up there that isn't a steakhouse anymore. It's Payne's Pub, I think now, and that whole building was notoriously haunted, I guess. Never been there, but I researched it and wrote about it.
Is that the manor? Is there the manor or something up there? That's.
I don't think that's it. It's like downtown Monroe, I think.
Okay.
It was run for a while, and then the guy passed away, so they closed the steakhouse. But there are other things in there now. But yeah, I could see doing other places. Sure. I'm going to keep. When I sent the copy of Spooky Berwyn to Sven, I signed it, and I told him, I said, you know what? I said, there are plenty of more places to do stories about in the Chicago area. So as long as you keep doing the show, I'll keep writing the books and sending them to you.
I did read the brewery up there in Monroe, Wisconsin. They're supposed to have Gene Simmons, something.
Oh, I saw that. They did that for Cheese Days or something. Yeah. I have a love hate with Kiss.
You think?
I love Kiss's music in a lot of ways, and I've seen them live, and they're a lot of fun live. But Gene Simmons is kind of a trip. I don't think I get along very well with him.
I don't think he gets along with him.
No, I think he does.
And Laura's calling out New Glarus. So up from Monroe is New Glarus, and there's a little tiny place called the Cow and Quince that we used to eat at. It was pretty nice.
Cool.
They farmed farmed the table, and you ate there. You know you're not going to get sick from the food because it was fresh and amazing. Yeah, so Nick and I were kind of thinking about doing 251, like going down 251 and finding all these hotspots, and it's amazing what you come across. I mean, I down in Mendota, where my dad lived, I believe there was an old funeral home for sale, and I'm like, dude, let's go and we'll pretend like we want to go buy it and just go in there and do our ghost thing, do a little paranormal picker type of thing in there. But yeah, no funeral home or something. And not too far from there, we just talked about this not too long ago, was Wild Bill Hickok down there in Troy Grove. There's so many things in Illinois. It's crazy. I mean,
Oh yeah,
so yeah,
yeah. It would be. I'll probably stretch out from there as we go along.
cool. Let's see some other things here. The concert photography of Gary Hill. Poetry of the Air. What's up?
Oh, that's a fun book, and that one I'm doing an expanded version of too. That one, when I started doing interviews, one of the things I'd always thought about was some of the most fun conversations I ever had is when you talk to someone about something they're passionate about, whatever it is. And you think about musicians, why did they get into music? Well, they loved music. You don't get into music because you don't like it. And so I got the idea of, wouldn't it be fun to just talk to these musicians rather than talking about what music they've done? Talk about the music they loved that really got them into music and what they loved about it. And I had thought about, it would be fun to interview people with that in mind and do a book of that. And so that's what I wound up eventually doing, getting to do those interviews. And like I said, I'm going to do a revised and expanded version of that and add some more people to it. But that first edition has a lot of cool people in it. Several people from Yes, Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, a couple of the guys from Rage, one of the women from Girls School, just all kinds of different people from all over in jazz and rock, heavy rock, metal, prog, all kinds of things. And I want to get some more people in there for next time. And it was just, I asked them a few questions, and sort of what I told them too was, if you want.
Oh. His Wi-Fi died. Oh no. All right, so it looks like Gary is frozen for a time. So you can check out GaryHillAuthor.com and just see all his books and everything that he's got going on there. I mean, just Google Gary Hill, Poplar Grove, Illinois, and all his hits will come up on Google. Just waiting there. It sounded like something buzzed before that, so it almost sounded like his internet died. That's what I'm thinking it was. And there he goes. So yeah, interesting guy. He lives right down the street. So yeah, Laura will have to get out there and chit chat. I mean, that'd be crazy, man. Held at Tim's place for a fire. Here I am inviting people to someone else's house. That's how I roll. Yeah. Could talk about my last storage locker. Haven't found too many items out of there. A lot of clothes, like brand new clothes, brand new clothes. Yeah, I need sleep. I didn't sleep at all last night. Um, been up to date on my Walking Dead. The new Ghost is out. The TV show Ghost. That was interesting. Um, so yeah, just waiting for him to come back. I bet you it was his Wi-Fi. Let's see if I could bring up. Maybe I can bring up his website here. So, is there any questions out there for Gary when he comes back? No, we don't have too much longer here anyway. I don't know. Nick said he was supposed to be on. Let's see. Greg, what is going on with the show with Nick? Um, we had Gary Hill on. His internet just interrupted like a minute ago. So he's probably resetting that and going to try to get back on. Nick, he was a single parent tonight. So he had to attend to his kid. Laura says it's raining here. You guys froze up a lot on me tonight. Oh. Victoria was on earlier. Would Gary come to a fire pit and hang out? I believe so. He's right in the area. That would be cool. Because we just sit back there and play music. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. But yeah, he's got a lot of different stories. He goes all over the spectrum. I know what I wanted to ask him. That's what I wanted to ask him. I wanted to get his thoughts on Mount Carroll, Illinois, and the Ravens Grin Inn. See if he's been there. That's what I'll ask him when he comes back. If he comes back. Like I said, it sounded like his internet was going. All right, so let me do this here. I don't know. Do we have any good news? I don't know him. Is he a vet? I don't know. I don't think so. Could ask him. But let me share my present. Share screen. Gary Hill, author, editor, and publisher, Tales of the Wonder and Dread. So he's got Tales of Wonder and Dread, all his books here, Spooky Ventures, Music Street Journal. So he's been reviewing music for 25 years. About Gary. Oh, there he comes back. Oh, no, that's me sharing the screen. You like what I did there? So that's Gary. I don't think it mentions on there if he is a vet. But he's got a lot of books. There's the Poetry in the Air. Poetry. Did I say that right? Probably not. This was his first book. Go and check him out, man. The Dark Star Files. Rockford, Illinois. Beat. He's got the books with Rockford Cemeteries. View page 1 of. There you go. A Girl's Gotta Eat. I guess that's the first of 3 books. Horrifying Halloween. Halloween Poems and Tales. I like this one. It Ends in the Graveyard. Horrifying Holidays. Holiday Spookfest. Lovecraftian Branches. Put the spooky back into Christmas. And he's got a YouTube page that he talks to people and interviews. So quite a few stuff here. He lives down the street here in Poplar Grove. Spooky Rockford 2. Nope, here he comes. Hey, and there you are. Sorry. I was too busy looking at your website.
That's all right. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. My Wi-Fi router decided to shut down, and I had to reboot it.
Yeah, I heard the bleep before you went kaput.
Yeah.
So I figured you just had to reboot it or something. So
Yeah.
welcome back.
Thank you.
I know we were talking about the Poetry of the Air.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that was a fun book to do. And like I say, I'm looking forward to doing the. I've already got one more interview, I think, in so far for it, or maybe 2 for the new revised edition. So, yeah.
Now I do have to ask. I found one of my notes here. Have you ever been to? Because this guy reminds me, and I forget his name, but he reminds me of like Svengoolie in a way, or some kind of. He's a character of his own, I should say, but he's the gentleman that runs Raven's Grin Inn out there in Mount Carroll.
You know, I was going to cover that in Spooky State Line, and I got in touch with him by email a couple times, and then he stopped replying to me. So I don't know what was going on. I've not been there.
I know he was sick for a little bit, and I think he just started.
They were shut down for a while when I was emailing with him. They were shut down, partly because of COVID, I think, and
I think it's back up. I think just like a couple weeks ago or something.
Maybe I should try getting back in touch with him about Spooky State Line too. Then,
yeah,
because I would like to cover it. I've heard some cool things about it.
So you've never been there?
No, I have not.
Yeah, we went. I went there once, and you could actually rent the place and play hide and go seek in there.
Oh, that's fun. I've heard about it for years, though.
Yeah, he's been there forever, and Mount Carroll's a pretty cool place, and they have that old school out there. I don't know if they use it for business and stuff, but if you want to look at, if you think something's haunted and you look at that place, you could say, there's ghosts in there.
A place I do want to go to one of these times is the Joliet Prison, which I guess right now is 2 haunted attractions they're running it as, which is cool. Yeah, of course. You know, I covered when I did this first Spooky News coming back on for spooky season. I covered them doing that for the haunted house there. Yeah, it makes big bucks. I think it seems like they're pretty much all about bringing in the money these days, rather than they do.
The pay to play, as we call them.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
I don't know. The problem with that is, to me, when you make a big business out of opening the place up for ghost hunters to come in and, amateur paranormal investigators, there's an incentive for you to make people think it's haunted, which means you can't necessarily trust what you see because things could be staged.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're doing that, but they certainly have an incentive to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, Julia, we did a funeral home that's now a bed and breakfast, and then I also did the Rialto Theater. That place is amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've been to the Arcada in St. Charles, which I went to a concert there, but it's supposed to be haunted, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah. Yep, Arcada Theater. Egyptian Theater out in DeKalb is supposed to be haunted.
Oh, really? I've been there once. We did. I also belong to a group. We dress as Klingons and do charity events. And years ago at the Egyptian, we had Klingon Days of Honor, and we basically took over the theater, and there was a big Klingon display of stuff, and ran Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, and it was a charity event for something. I didn't organize it. I just went there, but yeah, it was fun.
All right, so Greg Kaz, he actually has a show called Shadow Hour every Friday, and then he also does a metaphysical show on Wednesdays. So he's actually joined in, and he's asking, where did you get the Ghostbuster cereal?
Oh, that was from a year or two ago. That's the thing. I buy these, and I eat the cereal, and I store the boxes and rotate them around. So I've got them from going back. I've been doing that for 2 or 3 years now, I think. So I'm going back a few years. I don't just collect the spooky ones. If you look around my house, I've got some Avengers cereal and Superman cereal boxes.
Just something that you're attracted to.
Again, just like I do the bottles and cans and stuff, if I find a cereal box or something like that I find cool, I hang on to it.
You know, I did. You know, when I open up storage lockers, you never know what you're going to find, and you know, and I'm like, when I see something, I react pretty, yay! You know, I'm excited like a little kid, you know, and so I found a Muppet Baby lunchbox.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah!
Nice.
And then this Ouija board up here just came out of the last one too. And
Nice.
my cousin sees an amputee, and he's just sitting there, and I'm like, yes! And he's like, what? And like, he thought I found like a box of gold bars. No, a Ouija board.
and I'm fortunate because my wife loves the spooky stuff too. So sometimes she'll come home with like the skull thing or something. She's like, oh, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I find. Oh, I should give you a list of all the books I found out of this one guy's. I mentioned to it the other day. Let me see if I can back up here a second. These were a few of them that I brought on here. Nostradamus.
Oh, wow.
The Confessions of Aleister Crowley.
Oh, neat.
Here's the Darkness, Portable Darkness right there, an Aleister Crowley reader.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, wow.
And these are just a few.
What is that one? Let's see. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
You got to be careful with that cover.
Yeah. And all his other books were like Satan worship and all. This guy was just completely out of his pool. I'm telling you, my house, you mentioned Bachelor's Grove coming home in a month and a half. When I brought that stuff home here, stuff were going on here, man. I'm telling you. Because I did learn that he passed.
Oh, wow.
I think him and I were like the same age.
Oh, wow.
And I remember us pulling stuff out of his locker and all this metal stuff. And I found a letter from his mom. I mentioned this before, where she was writing somebody. It was sealed, but it was postmarked. And I opened it, and the letter was to somebody that he knew, either his wife or mother-in-law or something, and it's his own mother, kind of wishing that he was dead because he's that evil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
reminds me of Aleister Crowley's mother supposedly said that he was the Antichrist, and
that's the collection of books he has.
Yeah, I noticed the Aleister Crowley book.
It's very similar that this letter. And so I got these guys to come over and pick up some scrap metal. There's a scrap place right across the street. So they came over and picked it up. He says, oh, you're cleaning it out? I'm like, no, a friend passed away, or I said, a friend passed because can't go. A friend passed away, so we're cleaning it out. It's like, oh, sorry, and I'm like, no, that's right, nobody liked him.
Yeah, if your mother doesn't like you, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
That's a good indicator.
So Greg wants to know if you're a veteran.
No, sir.
No, he did not serve, Greg.
No, sir. although I respect those who did.
There you go.
I don't think, with my asthma, I don't think I would have. Plus, I'm legally blind in one eye. I don't think I would have passed the physical anyway.
Oh wow. So we are at 9:00. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead and promote yourself a little bit. I know you got something going on October 28th, 29th.
May's Books. I will be there doing a reading. Dan Clefstead will also be there. Dave Pedersen, and I believe M.K. Davis. I'm sorry, I just became Facebook friends with him recently, and I hope I didn't get his name wrong. But we'll all be there at 7:00 at May's Books on October 28th. That's downtown Rockford, right by Irish Rose. We'll be doing readings. I'll have a bunch of books there, and I've got free bookmarks to give to everybody. So come down,
there you go.
Get a bookmark, say hi, listen to some people talk, and tell some spooky stories. And Dave said there might be wine there, so because Dave's the one who runs the bookstore. So,
nice.
So there you go.
So do you carry all your books?
Oh no, I ordered like 2 each of about I don't know 7 or 8 books. And I'm gonna have some of the more recent stuff and a few other things. So that's basically I couldn't afford to order all of them.
I was gonna say
because they cost me money too, and if they don't sell.
Yeah. Exactly. So I did promote your webpage. You can go to his webpage and see all the books there, and I'm sure you're going to have the Rockford books with you.
Yeah, I think I have. I don't know. I don't know if I'm bringing. There is I do have 1 copy each of Spooky Rockford and Spooky Rockford 2 I'm bringing down. That I was going to just put there for him to sell, but I'm just going to take him down there with me that day, and if they don't sell that night, I'll leave him there for him to sell. But and I have 2 copies of Spooky State Line, 2 copies of Spooky Berwyn 2 I know coming. They haven't gotten here yet. I think they're going to be here tomorrow. So, but yeah, I'll have those, which those are the newest ones. So,
and at a fire pit in Candlewick near you. So there you go. We'll
there you
also
go. There you go. And you can check out Music Street Journal at musicstreetjournal.com and see lots of cool videos. It's lots of cool videos on our YouTube channel for Spooky Ventures, but just go to spookyventures.com and that'll take you to the YouTube channel because those YouTube URLs are crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So pretty much what we do here is after the show, I'll go ahead and recreate it and then upload it to YouTube with some addition stuff. If needed, sometimes I add little spooky things going across the screen. Back to the spooky.
My slogan for Spooky Ventures is always keep it spooky. So there you go.
So
I do the same thing with those videos. I'll do videos like live video chats, and then I put bumpers at the beginning and end, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I get it.
Well, it's been a joy. My new friend Gary.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for inviting me. This was a great.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. And
like I said, you get out to Candlewick again, let me know. Let's get together.
I'll be driving through with my windows down and my Black Sabbath blaring.
Yeah.
General gathered in the masses. Yes. Thank you so much, Gary.
All right. Have a good one,
everyone. If you hold
Thanks,
on,
everyone.
we'll go behind the scenes here. Good night, everyone.
Oh, hey. Wow. Oh, hey, everyone. It's Dean from Paranormal Pickers. Oh, I got the preview for the next episode. Oh, yeah. Here, take a peek.